Greetings to all. In this video, you're going to find out what to avoid in life in order to maximize health. And I wanted to go through this because I saw this tweet, this fantastic tweet. I'll pull it up on screen now. This guy has obviously been listening to my tweets over a long period of time, and he created this master list. Doesn't have everything in there, but there's a great summary of all the different things that I've mentioned as being harmful for your health in various different ways. So I wanted to go through the list and expand upon it because it's a beautiful summary. And while it may look long and somewhat intimidating, you can actually do a lot of these if you just make a little bit of effort. And a lot of them, once they're done, they're done. So it's not this ongoing thing. A lot of people, maybe look at the list and they go, "Oh, Solbra, scared of everything. What are you going to do? Just live life a little, bro." And I don't like that attitude. I don't believe that living life requires you to intake toxins. And what you'll find is when you make these shifts in your life, that your life actually becomes much better and you feel better and you are healthier, so you can live more life and have more energy. And obviously, when we're sick, when we're ill, the most important thing is our health to us. So I prefer to work on the side of prevention to prevent disease. And how do we do that? By avoiding the toxins in modern life and aligning with nature. And a lot of this list is to do with that. So without further ado, no particular order, I'm just going through the order of the tweet, and let's cover all these different points of information. First up is chlorinated pools. So I do not recommend that you swim in chlorinated pools. I'm sure you guys have noticed whenever you've been in a public pool, a chlorinated pool, that your skin becomes very dry after, your hair maybe even a little brittle and dry as well. And why is that happening? Because chlorine is used to kill bacteria, and we have bacteria on our skin. It's a very toxic chemical. That's why it kills bacteria. And it's also carcinogenic. Chlorine gas is used to attack people and to unalive them. So we don't want to have that on our skin, in our bodies, and we absorb it when we swim in water that they've put a lot of this chlorine into. Makes sense. It's absorbed through the skin. You breathe it in. If you're in a public pool and you smell that smell that reminds you of a public pool, that's chlorine kind of off-gassing, and that's just not something I want to be around. It's not good for your skin. It's not good for your health. So if you're going to go for a swim in salt water. Saltwater pools exist, or natural spring water if you can, like a river or a waterfall or the ocean. If you have to go in a chlorinated pool for whatever reason and you have access to lemon juice or vitamin C, that can neutralize the chlorine. If you have a bath with chlorinated water, then you can put vitamin C or lemon juice in there to help neutralize the chlorine. So that helps if you must, but I would say avoid. Next point, processed foods. So this is like, everyone should know this. You've been following my channel? Yeah, you should probably know this about processed food. This is one that's obvious to everyone. Why is it bad? Synthetic additives, preservatives, sweeteners, random ingredients that just are in there to make it easier for these processed products. I don't even like to call them food because they're not. These products that people put inside them through their mouth to sit on the shelf and not decay. Normal food decays after a couple of days, right? It breaks down. That's the natural order of things, unless it's in the refrigerator or otherwise preserved. So in order for these processed foods to last, they add chemicals. They add stuff that isn't actually food. So you're going to wreck your gut. Your skin's going to flare up. Your mitochondria just in disarray. Your body doesn't know what to do with these ingredients, with these products. And a lot of people are, frankly, addicted to the chemicals within them. And processed foods is just something that I avoid at all costs. There's no need. If you're only in the place where you can only eat processed food, then just don't eat for a little bit. It's not going to kill you. It's not going to harm you. A little fast sometimes is good for you and healthy. So obviously only eat real earth-grown things that either come out of the ground or they're part of an animal, they come out of an animal, and shop at farmers market and don't really eat anything that comes in a packet. It's pretty simple. And I'm sure you guys know the basics of why we should avoid processed foods. It just wreaks havoc on our body and our biology, and there's no need for it, basically. Third point, drinking and showering in tap water. So for the same kind of reasoning as the chlorinated pools, our tap water has chlorine in it. It also has fluoride, heavy metals, microplastics, pharmaceutical residue from other people taking drugs and then excreting them into the wastewater system, which then gets reused. And they've shown that, birth control pills can actually be in tap water or the residue of it. So I don't know about you. I don't want to drink that. I don't want to shower in that. So I avoid that, and I encourage you to avoid that as well. Get a shower filter. If you can use rainwater in your house, that's awesome. Reverse osmosis, whole house filter if you have the money for that. Otherwise, you can get a quality shower filter for a couple $100, and it's well worth it. You can stack shower filters so you get more filtering. And then drinking water, of course. Get some big glass bottles and refill at a spring if you have a spring near you, or buy glass bottled spring water. That's what I recommend for drinking as well. Seed oils. This is a topic that's also been done to death, but in saying that, there are still people that are eating them. So what does that tell you? It tells you that the population still hasn't hit the critical mass of understanding what seed oils are, what they're doing. So what is a seed oil? Usually canola, soybean, and the other super processed oils that are very cheap to manufacture. That's, we squeeze an olive, we get olive oil. Butter, you churn some milk. Those are healthy, natural fats that people can use to cook, even though I recommend eating them raw. Seed oils have to go through this frankly disgusting process of deodorizing, mixing with like other solvents, and then drying it and mixing it, and it's just this terrible super chemical involved process to get to this yummy cooking oil at the end of it. And the reason why they're selling it as a food oil is because they got to the end of the war and they had all this excess canola oil, this seed oil, that they were using as machine engine lubricant. That's what it's used for. And they thought, how can we repurpose this? And so they started selling it to people to eat and to animals as feed. And we're seeing the results. The obesity off the charts, heart disease, all of these things. This oil is becoming encrusted into people's tissues and causing a whole host of disease. So if you care about your health, if you want to avoid disease, then stay away from seed oils. They're oxidized, super high in omega fats, polyunsaturated fatty acids. They're very unstable. They destroy cell membranes because our cell membranes are created from the fats that we eat. If we're eating delicious raw butter or raw beef fat, then your body just instantly knows what to do with that. It assimilates into the cells perfectly. Seed oils is so unstable and it crystallizes in the body rather than allowing the cell membranes to be nice and fluid. And what happens is you get that kind of skin aging, sunburn, because those unstable oxidations are occurring once the seed oil's in your tissues. So again, you don't eat processed, you cook at home, or you just eat raw food at home, you're not going to run into this issue. It's when you're eating out and they're cooking in God knows what, and you can't control the situation, that's when you get seed oils. And if you want to cook, use things like tallow, ghee, coconut oil, olive oil, or butter, and just avoid those fried foods, and you'll stay away from seed oils, basically. Processed shampoos and body washes. So synthetic fragrances and things like parabens are endocrine disruptors. I say parabens, but there's an absolute list of all the different compounds and chemicals that you can see if you go to the supermarket and you look at the kind of cheap body washes and even the expensive ones. They're got a nice packaging on the outside, but you look at the ingredients list and it's an absolute horror show. You really need to check these things. And chances are, if there's 20 different ingredients and they're all oxyboxyl deca acid and all these garbage things, you don't know what that is. Flavorings, scents, perfumes, all of these things that your body does not know how to process. It doesn't want to process them. There's no need for it to make your body clean if you want to wash your hair and your body. And you're going to have massive hormonal impacts because you're slobbering that stuff all over yourself in the shower twice a day because I've got to get clean. Well, you actually don't need that. I use a natural olive oil soap, which I make my own, of course, on souldepartment.com if you want to check that out. And, there are natural products, natural shampoos out there, which are just plant oils or like rosemary and Castile soap is a base of some of them. You don't need to absorb these things into your body, which are just straight chemical bombs and endocrine disruptors. They clog up detox pathways. So use the natural products and you're going to feel way better. Also, just smell better because your body's skin is not being so disrupted by these chemicals and disrupting the microbiome or the bacteria, killing the bacteria that helps keep your skin healthy. So avoid those big bottles of bright blue sludge and you'll be much better off. So condoms and birth control pills, different things there, but pretty much two sides of the same coin. Why are they bad? Let's start with condoms. Putting plastic on and in your most sensitive body parts is just a no-go. Okay, we don't want to drink out of plastic bottles. Well, I don't want to put processed plastic with other chemicals on some of the most sensitive skin that you have in your body. Now, am I encouraging unprotected sex with randoms? No, of course not. I only think you should have sex with someone that you trust, that you wouldn't mind if you had a child with, and then also being consistent and conscious of when you're having sex and the window in which the girl is possibly fertile, so that you understand when to be very careful, when to avoid having sex if you don't want a child at that point. This is very... it's very doable to not need synthetic things like the condom. I practice semen retention anyway. And then the birth control side of things, it's handed out like candy to girls as soon as they start their period. And it's terrible. They're completely ruining their hormonal cycles. They're ruining their fertility. They're ruining their mental health. You can't just give people synthetic hormones and expect that things are just going to go well and continue like that. It's just not how it works. And people are doing it for convenience. They're doing it so they can just sleep willy-nilly around with as many people as they want. That in itself is damaging. So for me, I think you just be conscious with it. And then if you do have sex, you don't need to use condoms. You don't need to use birth control pills. It should be natural. It's more connected in that way. And that's personally what I do. And to be your most healthy self, that's what I recommend. You can, of course, there's like organic latex barriers, even lambskin. I don't know if you can buy them really these days, but that's what they used to use. And I would 100% use that before I would use a mass-produced plastic for the same purpose. So if it's needed, if it's, relevant for that time, then there are other options. Daily ejaculation and masturbation, pretty much connected, pretty much the same thing. Why is this bad? Well, excessive release of your masculine chi energy, which is primarily through the production and retention of semen, will deplete you. It will decrease your testosterone. It'll decrease your energy. Your life force within you is depleted each time we're letting that life force go without intention. And if you're doing it daily, you're not going to be the most masculine self that can have the most creative energy and most drive and most love and most just ability to show up in every part of your life. It doesn't work like that. We have a physical kind of limit with replenishing of the semen, and there's an energy component of it to the point where, of course, don't masturbate. That's just gonna, watching porn, masturbation, it's gonna completely tank your willpower, your life behind the eyes, and it's obviously just a waste of time overall. Even if you're having sex in a committed relationship with someone you like, ejaculating every single day, not recommended. Once a week, if you've never tried it before, expand upon that. Try to get those periods longer and longer. And I think that you will notice some incredible changes if you stick with that. So yeah, daily ejaculation, do not do that. Channel your sexual energy into other creative endeavors. Training, you'll have more energy for that as well. All vaccinations. Now, given the platform that I'm on, I have to be somewhat conscious of the words that I use. For me, and what I would choose for myself, is that I would trust my immune system, my body, to deal with anything that may come at it. And I do not believe, personally, that an injection of heavy metals, processed chemicals, and a bunch of these other mass-produced nonsense ingredients can help me in any way, shape, or form, and can actually greatly harm me. And that's what I believe. I could say a lot more on that, but I will leave it to you to do your own research, because I think I've made my point, if you understand what I'm saying. And now I'm putting it very lightly with my thoughts on this. And when you're getting sunshine, you're eating good, you're detoxing properly, you're grounding, there's zero issue in any zero point in any situation to use these products. They're for profit, and they just spell bad news for everyone. So there we go. Kind of related, mainstream medical advice. If you rely on the mainstream medical system in today's day and age for medical advice or for health advice, you're insane. I'm just saying, you cannot have experienced the last 5 years, in general, just observation of what they tell us, what they recommend, and then, oh, whoops, sorry, we were wrong 5-10 years later. There's no understanding other than what they want to profit off. Even the most well-meaning, they're 10 years, 20 years behind the curve of what the, let's say, more informed people are understanding. And even if it's your local doctor, they may want to help you, but they don't learn anything in terms of diet, nutrition, grounding, all of these natural protocols, which are more alignment with nature. They learn how to prescribe things to you, and they learn how to manage symptoms to some degree, not the root cause. They learn how to make X symptom go away. Well, why is that symptom occurring? That's what you have to ask. If you want to get to the root cause and fix your health and fix the disease, you do not just take a medication that gets rid of this symptom, because your body is producing that symptom to help you, to heal. That is how the body works. It may be uncomfortable, it may not be good feeling, but your body is doing the best that it can in the environment that it is with what it has available. So the symptom should be a signal for you to understand what's going on, rather than just rushing to the mainstream and getting rid of it by taking a pill. You're not going to do anything. You're going to kick the can down the road, and you're going to make it worse for yourself to heal the root cause. So yeah, you really got to take your health into your own hands on that. So avoid mainstream medical advice. Artificial blue lights, I've been over this before. LEDs and screen lights, they disrupt circadian rhythm. When the sun goes down, our brain is meant to be intaking signals to let us know that it's night, if we're beaming into our eyeballs with light, your brain thinks, okay, it's the daytime. Let's go on. Let's do our things, and it doesn't allow itself to rest and recharge. Your mitochondria cannot heal. Your circadian rhythm is all in whack, so your hormones get off the chain, not in a good way. And most people are, watching their TV late at night, their phones. They are going to environments with bright fluorescent lights. Even just being at home, most new builds have these bright energy-saving lights that just absolutely, like, the flicker rate is horrible. They're too bright, and you should just fill your home with either candles or very soft, low, warm lights, incandescent light bulbs if you can. And as much as is possible, don't even use lights once the sun has gone down. If you're not used to it, make the change. You may feel a little in the dark to begin with, but your eyes will adjust. And once you have made that switch, the vibe change in your house is just absolutely unbeatable. And you'd be much more calm in the evening. So avoid artificial blue light. Even during the day in places like gyms and supermarkets, I will wear my blue light blocking glasses in order to prevent anything coming to my eyes that is unnatural, basically. Synthetic fabrics, one I've mentioned before as well, but basically polyester and other synthetic fabrics are going to leach microplastics into your body. And a lot of them are treated with chemicals that further disrupt your body, act as hormonal disruptions, and otherwise are, one, they're just a waste of money. 2, they don't let your skin breathe properly. And 3, there's better options. Use cotton, use linen, use wool. You're going to be comfier. You can avoid synthetic fabrics. It's a fairly new phenomenon. It's a fairly new modernity thing. And you will notice a difference if you switch that up. So I highly recommend. We have amazing 100% natural clothing on souldepartment.com. So go check it out. BPAs and plastic. Avoid plastic, of course. There's xenoestrogens in plastic, which mimic estrogen, lowering your fertility, lowering your vitality, making you grow man boobs. Easy fix, use glass for everything. Store your food. There's glass Tupperware containers, stainless steel, even if you have those. Pretty simple. Very, very easy. I've got my glass water bottle right here. Habitual sunglass use. This is an interesting one because I see it all the time. Anyone, or a lot of people these days, anytime they're going outside, instantly the sunglasses go on. It could be 7 a.m. in the morning. There's morning sun. There's no UV. They're inside their car and they have sunglasses on. And if they ever have to take them off, it's like, oh, my eyes, I'm blinded. Oh, because they're not used to any sunlight at all, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. When you are adjusted to sunlight, there's no need to just like stare at the midday sun, but there is a need to get raw, unfiltered sunlight into your eyes in order to time your circadian rhythm, get the red light, which is going to heal the mitochondria of the eye. I've heard people fixing their eyesight from sun gazing, and that's a different thing, but the sunglasses are like this little, frankly, wimpy little cover for your eyes when you could just get used to it. There's a very small cases where maybe you're skiing or you're piloting a boat and there's sun reflection on the water. Okay, that's a very specific use case, which you want a bit of eye protection. The blue light blocking glasses that I use, I've skied with them, and they just cut out the excess blue light so you can see a bit better. There's no snow glare. They work as well. You don't need the sunglasses, which are just complete like black darkness. And yeah, if you're used to wearing sunglasses all the time, I highly recommend that you don't do that because you're blocking that full spectrum of light. Some light is going through, but it's blocking a whole bunch of useful, beneficial light needed for hormone and mood regulation. So yeah, avoid sunglasses. AirPods, Wi-Fi, sleeping near phones, it's all the same kind of thing. AirPods specifically, stop wearing AirPods because you could not be getting closer to your brain in order to get EMF further in there with the AirPods. And they talk to each other as well. So you're talking to each other through your brain, talking to each other with these signals, just so you can listen to a cool song with cool noise cancellation. You know, wired headphones exist. We used to use them. They're great. And you're going to prevent a lot of this really intense, close to your brain, non-native electromagnetic forces and fields that disrupt a whole bunch of things. And it's really not necessary. Wi-Fi is the same thing. Wi-Fi is a electromagnetic field. You don't want to be in Wi-Fi signals all the time if you can avoid it. I know it's one of those things in the modern world, but if you're at home, turn your Wi-Fi off. It's a simple fix. Don't sleep near your phone. A lot of people will put their phone down and go to sleep. They'll sleep with it in the bed. At that point, you're addicted and you need to make some changes. But sleeping next to your phone, if it's connecting to things, even in airplane mode, you still have the battery and everything. You're getting that electromagnetic field at night, which is just, it's not ideal. It disrupts your brain waves, your heart rhythm, recovery, all kinds of things. No electronics by the bed is my best bet. Similar in terms of electric fields, electric vehicles. If you have an electric vehicle, I would highly, highly recommend you make a change, because there's EMF fields within the cabin, and obviously the lithium batteries, they can really affect your biofields and disrupt things in the human system. You're in this kind of metal box which is resonating these EMF fields. It's not a good thing, and I think we're going to see a lot of disease from people that have, they wanted to make the better choice for electric vehicle. They were told it's better for the environment, all these things, but we're actually putting ourselves in an electric box microwave kind of thing. And that's not good. And it's not something that I would personally want to drive around in every day if I'm using it. Make sure you're grounding after using them if you have one in the interim, and try to discharge that kind of static that can build up in those vehicles. Overly protective clothing in bad weather. So this one is, I was most inspired because I was reading about ancient Sparta, and in ancient Sparta, they basically gave people one outfit. And that was it. And it was some sort of linen tunic and one piece kind of thing, loose, flowy. And they basically, doesn't matter if it was raining, doesn't matter if it was really hot, they wore the same thing. And what it does is it teaches your body to thermoregulate itself. And it teaches you to be okay with being a little chilly and possibly wet. And obviously, there are certain conditions where you need protection, and mountaintops or whatever. In saying that, I went up Mount Olympus recently, and I wore my sole shorts up the whole way. I had a protective jacket, several wool layers, but on my legs, I just had shorts. And I got many, many interesting stares from people like calling me a madman. But it's because, I have quite a strong body, and it's because I don't instantly bundle up at every sign of a little bit of cold weather. I'll go out in a t-shirt and shorts, and my body knows how to handle the lower temperatures. I'm not instantly wrapping a scarf up and needing jeans and a jacket and gloves all the time, because it's like using the sunglasses. When you overly protect your body, it has no need to learn how to cope and learn how to become a bit tougher. It's like if you always wore gloves in the gym, you wouldn't develop the calluses. So the same kind of principle occurs. You're blocking sunlight, of course. If all winter you're always wearing long sleeves, long pants, your skin will never see the sun. There is sunlight in the winter, even if it's colder. So you have to understand that it is better to not cover up entirely all the time, even if it's a little bit wet and rainy or cold. Cold showers are also a useful tool to build cold resilience. And it's all about your nervous system and not, I'm shivering, it's cold, and relaxing into it. And okay, it's cold. Yeah, but I'm also able to be centered, be present, and it's not going to be the end of the world for that to be, to be a little chilly. Fluoride toothpaste. Fluoride is one of those wonderful compounds that can accumulate in our pineal gland and make us dumber. Proven to lower IQ. Is that something that you then want to put on your toothbrush, your little plastic toothbrush, rub in your gums because the people on TV told me to, and it's going to prevent cavities? No. Healthy mineralization and a good diet prevents cavities. Fluoride is not needed in toothpaste, and it can suppress your intuition because it's disrupting the pineal gland. That's why they want people to do it. It's why they add it to tap water, and then they tell you, drink 8 glasses of tap water, mate. Yeah, good one. Healthy, prevents cavities. PSYOP, complete PSYOP. And if you haven't registered that, come on, open your eyes a little bit more. So you can I use coconut oil or a natural toothpaste, a little bit of baking soda, and otherwise you can, use something much more natural in terms. There's natural toothpaste out there. You don't need to use a fluoride toothpaste. That's just the big brands in the stores. Microwave ovens. So microwaving is probably the worst cooking method, the worst heating method. It denatures nutrients, and with the water that's in the food, a microwave is going to create these really strange energetic patterns, I believe. If you want to reheat things, reheat it in the pan on the stovetop. You can even do steam, the oven, maybe it takes a little longer, but it's much better. I like to leave my food out in the sun. You can just eat things at room temperature. It doesn't necessarily have to be hot. And warming it up in the sun is a great way to do that. If you're taking something that's been frozen, I personally don't eat previously frozen food. I don't think that it's healthy or the healthiest, and I don't believe that we necessarily need to in today's modern convenience. If you need to, sure, but on occasion. Otherwise, I don't believe in microwaving a frozen thing that's been sitting in the freezer for 3 months. Is devoid of energy, is devoid of life force. There doesn't need to be that kind of optimization in order to be healthy, in my opinion. So, avoid microwaves. I haven't used one in years and years and years, and it's not particularly necessary for reheating your food. It's going to jack you up. They're kind of demonic, in my opinion. Nonstick cookware. In the kitchen, we want to avoid anything that is like Teflon. They release these toxic fumes. They have endocrine disrupting PFAS. You can use cast iron, ceramic, glass, stainless steel, and really glass or ceramic is best. Again, I don't cook a lot, but when I do, I'll use a ceramic pan, and low and slow, it's not going to stick. And these non-stick, you can see in a non-stick pan that's been used for a long time, there'll be things that are chipped off, that chemicals that have chipped off. I've seen a study where mothers in pregnancy that use Teflon materials, their kids' willies were smaller. So what does that tell you? I would want to avoid that personally, but you guys do you. Same thing, plastic food containers. I mentioned this before. You can use glass. I will tell you, I used to microwave my meals in a plastic container with tap water in the bottom of the container to steam it in a microwave. That's how I would reheat my food. I used to do it. I learned my lesson. It's a common thing. So if you do that right now, take my advice and stop doing that. We don't want to leach these plastics and chemicals into the food that we're having. Glass, wood, stainless steel containers, much, much better. Deodorants with aluminium. Why is it bad? It's blocking sweat. Sweat is a detox avenue, and you're also getting heavy metal absorption of the aluminium into a very sensitive area and the lymph nodes in your body. Blocking sweat is not good. We should be sweating. If you're sweating a lot, that's good because if you're not getting a sweat each day, you're not detoxing efficiently. And so if you're spraying this deodorant, rubbing this aluminium deodorant on you because you don't want to get pit stains, so what? Sweaty pits, doesn't matter. Wear some nice linen, it breathes, it dries. These chemical mixes of heavy metal schlopper deodorants are just going to harm you in the long run, and I do not recommend them. Air fresheners and scented candles. If you have these in your home, throw them out of it immediately because they contain petrochemicals, artificial fragrances into the lungs and therefore the blood. Because what do we do when we're smelling something? We're inhaling it, we're bringing it into our systems. When we smell a nice smelling candle, when we smell these artificial fragrances, they're going inside us. Everything that goes in the body has to be dealt with. And if it is an artificial petrochemical like that, your body has to break it down in some way in order to remove it again because it's poisonous, toxic to the body. So a lot of people will get colds, aka sniffles, coughs, irritation in their eyes, all these kind of detox-related symptoms because they're burning candles indoors with inadequate airflow, or they have an air freshener plugged into the wall, gassing these chemicals out, and then it's just in the air and you're breathing it in all day. And then, okay, lo and behold, the body rejects that. Yeah, you don't want to have that in your system. You don't want to have that in your body. So throw out all that stuff. If you want to have a nice smell in your home, you can have an essential oil diffuser and fill the diffuser with spring water. Then it's nice, natural smell, eucalyptus oil, peppermint oil, and it's only being put into the air by slightly heated up water, which is fine, absolutely fine. Wi-Fi routers in the bedroom, as well as sleeping near a charging phone, similar kinds of thing. A lot of people will finish their phone scroll before bed, plug in their phone right next to their bed, leave it near their head, and then sleep. When it's plugged in, the EMF from that phone is way higher. So no phones in the bedroom, that's just a rule, but definitely don't plug it in next to your head, charging all night. So the Wi-Fi not being in the bedroom is really important. I had a guy message me once this year, and he said that when he moved rooms in his house, he had kind of been in his teenage years all in one room. He moved rooms, and then he went through a growth spurt. Then, seeing my content, he realized the Wi-Fi router was in his room that he was sleeping in for his teenage years. And when he got away from that, even the insignificant, let's say, well, it obviously is significant, but the insignificant seeming distance of going to the other room actually has a massive effect on the sleep quality and therefore his ability to grow. So I thought that was really interesting. The takeaway then is, okay, let's not go near Wi-Fi at night, but let's not go near Wi-Fi at all as much as we can avoid it, especially during sleep. Turn it off before bed and you'll be much better. Your sleep will not be disrupted. Same with blue light, flickering. If you have any little electronic devices, make your room as dark as possible. I've talked about sleep in another video. You can go check it out. Ultra-processed protein powders. I used to have these when I first went to the gym. Oh, I'm going to the gym now. What should I do? Take a protein powder, get bigger, get jacked. You don't need them. And a lot of them they contain artificial sweeteners, which is going to wreck your gut, gums, heavy metals. I don't know if you've seen any of those studies where they actually analyze. A lot of the big protein powders fail in terms of the amount of heavy metals in them, especially the vegan ones. So if you're going to have them, grass-fed whey from a good quality cow and milk, but real food is mostly the best. You don't need protein powder when you're eating meat, you're having eggs, and you're drinking raw milk. It's just unnecessary. A protein powder is just dried milk if it's a good one. So just drink the milk. It has a much higher energy, fresher, tastier. I could go on, but that's very simple. Same thing with energy drinks and pre-workouts. If you're relying on these things in order to work out. Look, once in a blue moon, fine. Okay, it's not going to be the end of the world. I used to drink them, but I'm much healthier now that I'm not. Spiking your cortisol, depleting your minerals, intensifying your adrenals and making them go. Like, a lot of people that use energy drinks on the regular are not using them in a wholesome way that their body can really process, as not to mention all the ingredients of these garbage brands that pop up. I feel like every second day there's a new one that I see in the store, and it's got some new branding and it's called something like Attack. And you don't want to be stimulating your body over and over again with these products. Pre-workouts is the same thing. Super extreme pump 3000, and it's just full of stimulants which make you think that you're having a great workout, and to some degree, okay, you may have more of this kind of temporary fake energy, but with any stimulant, what you're utilizing, you have to then earn back later. There's no free lunch of just free energy. You're borrowing energy later, and you may have a crash later on once the cortisol kind of settles and the adrenaline goes away. So natural energy sources, raw honey, raw milk, electrolytes, making sure that you're mineralized, a nice watermelon juice, beetroot juice, these kind of vasodilators. There exist stimulatory natural things, green tea, lion's mane, cordyceps, mushroom for physical workouts, where you can get a stimulation and an enhancement of energy without these giga-processed things. So in the same line of things, excessive caffeine, even if it is the organic espresso that you're making at home like I do, or a really good cafe, if over and over and over again, every single day, you're having a lot of caffeine in replacement of just having a centered kind of wholesome diet and sleep routine. And even then you can have a good diet and sleep routine, but excessive caffeine every day is still going to leave some things where the bill is going to be due in terms of it degrading your minerals and otherwise stressing yourself. You're always in that kind of high cortisol state. And, cycle caffeine, try yerba mate, try green tea instead. If coffee is the main thing that a lot of people are doing the most of, or adaptogens, if you just push the caffeine over and over again, you're going to lead to some sort of burnout. Avoid caffeine pills or that kind of thing. Mouth breathing and shallow breathing. So obviously I want to avoid these. Mouth breathing. The mouth is for eating. The nose is for breathing. And that's an easy one to remember, because the nose is filtering air, it's warming air, and nasal breathing engages the diaphragm, which is related to shallow breathing, or the opposite, deep breathing. Mouth breathing is very shallow, and it doesn't move the diaphragm or expand the trunk of the body to the degree that you should, in order to maximize your breath, in order to maximize the spinal movement and promote the flow of cerebrospinal fluid. So nasal breathing only. Tape your mouth at night if you have an issue with that, and you're going to have better CO2 tolerance, better oxygen uptake, and an unstressed nervous system if you're actually deeply breathing through the nose compared to shallow breathing through the mouth. Because when we're in a very stressful situation, we may need to mouth breathe to get more air in, because we need to sprint away from the tiger that's in the bushes, for example. So our body has a certain response to mouth breathing compared to the deep nasal breathing. And one calms, one excites. And if you're always doing the exciting one, you're just going to be jacked up. So I don't recommend you doing that for a long period of time. Sitting for long periods of time. Get up and move. If you've been sitting watching this video, I command thigh to move around, jump around, get up, shake it out. If you're sitting for prolonged periods of time, you're going to be turning off some of the muscles that are just inactivated, and over time that degrades the muscle quality. You're going to be stagnating your lymph, which is the detox system of the body, lowering testosterone because nothing's moving, and just getting into these movement patterns, which is unnatural and compresses your organs as well in curious ways, which is not healthy. Like, think of a human out in the wild, walking around, doing things, climbing trees, grabbing fruit, throwing stuff. When are they sitting at a 90-degree angle? They're not. When they're taking rest, they're laying on the floor. Their feet are, they're squatting in a resting position. There are these natural resting positions which I encourage you to look into and do instead of sitting. And, if you work an office job like I have, you can get foot rests, or, even have one leg up on the chair and a half squat. Might look a little weird, but it's worth it when you're avoiding sitting in the same position over and over again. Kneeling chairs, you can get standing desk. There are solutions. If you have to sit in a chair, at least get up and stand and walk around every 30 minutes if you're working, and just prevent the sitting in one position for hours and hours and hours, because you'll just end up encasing yourself and slowly stiffening up into a sitting slug. And we don't want that. So in terms of your shoes, we want to have our toes be able to spread out with a wide toe box and a flat heel, flat sole entirely. When we squish our feet into these narrow shoes, which permeate most of the shoes that are on the market today, it's going to distort your posture. It's going to affect your athleticism. It disconnects us from the proprioception of us feeling the ground. And when we can't feel the ground, we can't naturally react to how we need to balance ourselves in order to, move throughout the world. And we kind of just, if you've ever worn mittens for skiing, where there's just a thumb hole and then one big hole for the four fingers, that's what it's like when we're walking with these tight shoes. And you lose a lot of feeling, you lose a lot of athleticism because of it. So go barefoot, or wear wide toe box shoes and walk barefoot around on the earth as much as possible to prevent that. Overtraining without recovery, or training with ego. Obviously, we need a little bit of ego. We need a little bit of pushing the boundaries. But if you're constantly overtraining outside of the ability of your body to recover, or your personal level of recovery that you have as an athlete, then you're going to lead to burnout. It's not the best thing for progress, even. Like, I know you want to try hard, and if it was the fact that the more intense effort you put in, the more you get out, yes, that's true to a degree. But if you're just overtraining and training 7 days a week at max level, that's not optimal. And you're actually just going to burn out and not help yourself. So chronic stress, cortisol, lowers testosterone, inflames your joints. If you don't let your tendons recover, your muscles can recover, but your tendons don't recover as fast. If your recovery is elite, you can push yourself further. But if you're just typical doing your training, you don't have time for all these recovery protocols, or you don't have a sauna at home and things like that, there are things you can do. But my point being, don't overdo it if your recovery and what you have in those recovery steps is not equal to going 110% every single time in the gym. Similarly, chronic cardio, it is overuse. If you're running miles and miles and miles and miles, possibly with less than ideal running form. If you look at marathon runners, they're not the most explosive, athletic, hormonally strong units. Sprinting is better for that. So my point being, chronic cardio isn't necessarily going to lead to optimal health or the most vital self of yours. It can stress you out a lot. It can age the heart by, I don't want to say like, don't do cardio. I don't believe that either. But the guy that's running 25, 30 kilometers, miles and miles every single day without a break, and he just runs through the pain, and he's not necessarily recovering or giving his body that kind of natural rest and things that promote vitality, promote testosterone, they're the kind of guys that end up like overdoing it in their 50s. Oh, he was so healthy. He was running every single day. Yeah, but that was also very, very stressful every single day. So again, take it with a pinch of salt. If you're running and you feel good, that's great. But if you're doing cardio because you think the more the better, and then you're feeling worse because of it, that could be why. And that's why I mentioned this. Sprints, resistance training, zone 2 cardio, some rest days of just walking, really honor that. And doing more of the range is going to be beneficial for you. Eating late at night and in front of screens. So our metabolism is actually tied to our light environment. So it confuses our circadian rhythm when we're meant to be eating the majority of stuff throughout the day. And if we're then eating in front of this unnatural light, it's just a lot of weird signals, especially if it's processed food. It can spike your insulin, your digestion just isn't optimized. And I've seen some studies showing that the more blue light people are getting, the fatter they are, even with the same diet. Like, it's literally a form of energy that your body is absorbing. And I think if you want to have the best health, then eat your food outside, under sunlight, under natural light, rather than in front of a screen. And it's also just a nice thing to do, to eat outside. And if you make that a habit, you begin to just be outside more in general whenever you have your meal, which is really nice. Zero sunlight exposure. Obvious one. If you're not getting sunlight, you're not going to have optimal testosterone. You're not going to have a good circadian rhythm. And you kind of forget this connection to the most powerful light source that we have of life in this world. And a lot of people actually don't get any sunlight, which is crazy. So make sure that you're getting sunlight. The more the better, in my opinion, but definitely at least getting your morning sunlight, watching the sunset, and a little bit of period, the high UV period during the day. Similarly, indoors only living, if you're an indoor cat, some would say, you're not going to be engaging with nature, getting that sunlight, getting the green light of the sunlight filtering through the leaves. You're not going to have your bare foot in the earth, and you're not going to be engaging with the microbiome of the outdoors. Indoors as well, recycled air. You're not getting fresh air. There's likely EMF from the lights, from the technology, from the Wi-Fi, and just mental stagnation when you have the ceiling over your head all the time. It's not the best for your creativity and your feeling in general. So get outside more. Wow, what a list. I want to thank Neatocracy for his summary tweet, and I hope this has been beneficial. We covered a lot there, but I think this is a beautiful summary of a lot of the things that I believe that will be beneficial for your health and help you to live the soul way a bit more in your own life. Farewell.